At 5 o'clock in the morning, I woke up right on schedule, just like always. Outside the window, it was still pitch black, with only the dim yellow glow of a distant street lamp cutting through the darkness. Today was my 60th birthday. By all accounts, it should have been a happy day, but for some reason, a sense of panic was churning in my stomach. I got out of bed as quietly as I could, terrified of waking my son and daughter-in-law in the next room. I felt my way through the dark and put on the old fleece robe that was washed so thin it was nearly white. It was the last thing my husband, Arthur, had bought for me before he passed. My fingers brushed against a grease stain on the chest that would never come out, no matter how many times I washed it, and a familiar ache spread through my heart. In the kitchen, I moved with practiced ease, starting on breakfast. My son, Ryan, liked freshly made pancakes. My daughter-in-law, Megan, only drank freshly blended green smoothies. And my young grandson, Leo, needed a completely different kid-friendly breakfast of scrambled eggs. 3 different meals, every single day for 5 years. Mixing batter, blending vegetables, whisking eggs, the motions had become muscle memory. In my 60 years of life, 40 of them had been spent in a kitchen. From being a wife to a mother, and now to being Grandma Helen, the few square feet in front of the stove had become my entire world. The sizzling sound of pancake batter hitting the hot griddle seemed especially loud in the quiet morning. I instinctively glanced back at the doorway, afraid of waking the Queen upstairs. "You old hag, making all that noise so early in the morning. Are you trying to keep people from sleeping?" And just like that, what I feared came to pass. Megan's sharp voice shot down from the second floor, followed by the rapid slap, slap, slap of slippers on the stairs. I gripped the spatula, the blue veins on the back of my hand standing out like winding little snakes. The kitchen door was thrown open with a violent shove, slamming against the wall with a loud bang. I turned to see my daughter-in-law, Megan, standing in the doorway with a stark white sheet mask on her face. Only her 2 heavily made-up eyes were visible, making her look like some kind of ghost coming to claim a soul. "Today is my—" I started, trying to remind her what day it was. "Who cares what day it is?" She cut me off impatiently, the mask crinkling with her exaggerated expression. "I have an important meeting at 9 o'clock. What if the smell of fried food gets on my suit?" I silently turned down the heat and lifted the finished pancakes from the griddle, placing them on a plate. A drop of hot oil splattered onto the back of my hand, leaving a red mark, but I didn't feel the sting. "Also, the plumber is coming to fix the pipes today. Make sure you're home to wait for him," Megan said, peeling off the mask to reveal her meticulously cared-for face. "For lunch, I want grilled salmon. And don't use too much salt. I gained 2 pounds last week." She turned to leave, then paused as if remembering something else. "Oh, and make a few extra dishes for dinner tonight. My parents are coming over." The slotted spoon in my hand fell into the pan, sending a spray of hot oil across the counter. "Today is my 60th birthday." "So?" She raised an eyebrow at me, as if I'd said something ridiculous. "Is being 60 some big accomplishment? The average life expectancy is over 80 now. You've still got a long way to go." I wanted to say more, but footsteps echoed from the stairs again. My son, Ryan, walked into the kitchen, adjusting his tie while his eyes were glued to his phone screen. "Mom, where's my coffee?" "It's almost ready," I said, quickly wiping my hands to get the coffee maker. "Hurry up, I'm in a rush," he said without looking up, his fingers flying across the screen. "Oh, and buy some extra seafood for tonight. My father-in-law likes lobster." I looked at my son's profile, a face that looked more and more like his father's every day. Once upon a time, this little boy would use his allowance to buy me a birthday card. He would hug me and say, "Mom is the best cook in the world." Now, he didn't even remember what day it was. "Ryan," I called his childhood nickname softly. "Today, Mom, can you please not nag me when I'm busy?" He interrupted with a frown, taking the coffee and downing it in one gulp. "Hey, where did I put my blue cufflinks?" Watching my son head upstairs without a second glance, I stood in the middle of the kitchen and suddenly felt my legs go weak. On the wall calendar, today's date was clearly circled in red pen. Underneath it, I had written Helen's 60th birthday, but they had all looked right past it. After breakfast, my son and daughter-in-law left for work, and the school bus picked up my grandson. As I cleaned the dishes, a daytime talk show was playing on the television. An elderly woman was tearfully complaining about her ungrateful son, while the host declared with righteous indignation that respecting your elders was a core American family value. I turned off the TV, and the room was plunged into a terrifying silence. A 60th birthday with no well wishes, no gifts. All I had were greasy dishes and a broken pipe waiting to be fixed. From the back of a closet, I pulled out a photo of my late husband, Arthur. I used my sleeve to wipe away dust that wasn't there. In the picture, he was forever 55 years old, his smile gentle, his eyes full of love. "Arthur, if only you were still here," I murmured, a lump forming in my throat. I remembered the day he was diagnosed with late-stage heart failure. He held my hand and said, "Helen, after I'm gone, you have to live for yourself." I cried until I couldn't breathe, telling him I couldn't live without him. Thinking back now, he must have seen the true nature of this family long ago. For lunch, I made a simple bowl of noodles for myself. Just as I finished, the plumber arrived. Seeing me home alone, the repairman asked casually, "Ma'am, where are your kids?" "They're at work," I managed to smile. "Isn't it your birthday today?" he asked, pointing to the calendar on the wall. My grandma turned 60 last year, and our whole family, more than 20 of us, threw her a huge backyard barbecue. I didn't know how to respond, so I just changed the subject back to the pipes. After he finished and left, I finally broke down. I sat in front of Arthur's picture and cried. 60 years old. It was supposed to be an age for being surrounded by children and grandchildren, for enjoying a peaceful retirement. Instead, I was like an unpaid maid, serving the entire family, young and old, and all I got in return was criticism and commands. Wiping my tears, I grabbed my basket and headed to the market. As I passed the community park, I saw a group of seniors doing line dancing. The music was cheerful, and they were all smiling, so happy. I stood watching from a distance for a long time, until my phone buzzed. It was a text from my son. "Mom, make a few extra dishes tonight. My in-laws will be here at 7 o'clock. Megan wants shrimp scampi, no spicy peppers." I didn't reply. I just shoved the phone back in my pocket and continued toward the market. As I passed a CVS, I stopped, staring at the bottles of sleeping pills in the window for a long, long time. "Ma'am, can I help you with something?" A young clerk called out cheerfully. "Oh, no, thank you," I said, hurrying away, my heart pounding like a drum. The market was bustling with noise. I mechanically selected ingredients, my mind replaying scenes from the past 5 years. My daughter-in-law, right in front of me, dumping a dish I made into the trash can, saying, "Even a dog wouldn't eat this." My son, growing more and more impatient with me, as if speaking one extra word to me was a great charity. My grandson, starting to imitate his mother, calling me old thing. "Helen? Helen?" A familiar voice pulled me back to reality. I turned and saw my old colleague from the textile mill, Ruth. She was 5 years older than me but looked younger than her age. After retiring, she had started taking classes at the senior center and was absolutely glowing. "Helen, I heard today is your 60th birthday," she said, taking my hand. "Why are you out buying groceries by yourself? Didn't your son and daughter-in-law throw you a party?" I forced a smile. "They're busy with work." "Busy? My foot?" Ruth scoffed. "My boy used to be like that too. Then I moved into a senior living community, and now he remembers to visit me every other week." "A senior living community?" "Yes, the one called Willow Creek. The facilities are fantastic," she said, lowering her voice. "A lot of the residents there moved in because they couldn't stand their kids anymore. You should come visit sometime. We're looking for someone who knows how to cook." I gave a non-committal answer, but her words sent waves through my mind. Live for yourself. Leave this house. The thoughts grew like weeds, spreading wildly through my heart. When I got home, I started preparing dinner. Washing vegetables, chopping meat, simmering soup, every action was more forceful than usual, as if I were trying to chop all my grievances into the vegetables, to boil all my anger into the soup. At 6:30, my son's family returned, and my in-laws arrived right on time. I was still busy in the kitchen when I heard peals of laughter from the living room. "Mom, is dinner ready?" "I'm starving," my son called out. "Almost," I answered stiffly, plating the last dish. Looking at the feast that had taken me all afternoon to prepare, I suddenly made a decision. From the back of a drawer, I took out an old digital voice recorder. It was something Arthur had used to record his last wishes. I had kept it all these years. I pressed the record button and slipped it into my pocket. "Mom, what's taking so long?" Ryan's voice called again, this time with clear impatience. "Coming," I said, taking a deep breath. I picked up the first platter and walked toward the dining room. The 60th birthday banquet was just getting started. In the dining room, 6 people were already seated around the table. My spot, if you could call it that, was at the farthest end, near the kitchen door, convenient for me to get up at any moment to refill rice bowls or serve more food. "Helen, this spread looks wonderful," my father-in-law remarked politely, though his eyes never left his phone. I placed the grilled salmon in the center of the table, the head of the fish pointing toward him. It was an old tradition, a sign of respect for the eldest at the table. Even though it was my birthday, who in this house remembered? "Mom, where's my red wine?" my son asked with a frown. "Didn't I ask you to chill a bottle? I forgot." "I'll go get it now," I said, turning back to the kitchen. I heard my daughter-in-law snicker behind me. She's getting so forgetful. Can't even remember one simple thing. Megan's voice was just loud enough for everyone to hear. "Ryan, I told you we should have hired a maid instead of relying on this free labor." I gripped the refrigerator door handle, the cold metal seeping through my palm and spreading through my body. Free labor? Yes, for 5 years, that's all I was in their eyes. An unpaid maid, an unpaid chef, an unpaid nanny. Returning to the dining room with the wine, I found my mother-in-law admiring Megan's new handbag, while my grandson was engrossed in his tablet. My son and father-in-law were discussing the stock market. No one paid any attention to me, as if I didn't exist. "Mom, pour the wine," my son said, pushing his glass toward me without even looking up. I silently filled everyone's glass, saving a small pour for myself last. Just as I was about to sit down, my daughter-in-law spoke again. "Where's the soup?" "I don't see any soup. It's a cold night, and there isn't even any hot soup." "It's in the kitchen. I'll go get it." I put down the fork I had just picked up. "Never mind, I'll get it myself." Megan sighed dramatically. "If I wait for you, everything will be in slow motion." She got up and walked to the kitchen, her high heels clicking sharply on the hardwood floor. The dining room fell silent for a moment, the awkward quiet filled only by the noise of a New Year's Eve special rerun on the television. "Grandma, I want shrimp, my grandson," Leo suddenly shouted, pointing at the platter of shrimp scampi on the other side of the table. I quickly stood up to move the platter closer to him, but he pushed it away. "I don't want you to peel it, it's dirty. I want Mommy to do it." "Leo, how can you talk to your grandma like that?" My son finally looked up, but his tone was mild. He turned his head and went right back to his conversation. Megan returned with the soup, and hearing this, actually smiled. "Leo's right. Old people have more germs on their hands. It's unhygienic." She sat down, elegantly pulled on a pair of disposable gloves, and began to peel a shrimp. "Here you go, sweetie. Mommy will peel it for you." I sat there, the food in front of me untouched. I was already full of anger. The voice recorder in my pocket felt heavy, like a piece of burning charcoal searing my thigh. "Oh, by the way, Helen," my mother-in-law suddenly turned to me. "I hear it's your birthday today." My heart leaped, as if struck by lightning. Someone finally remembered. "Ah, yes, it is." My voice trembled slightly. "Oh, perfect," she said, turning to her daughter. "Megan, why don't you bring out that cake you bought? It'll save us a trip." "Cake?" I was stunned. They had gotten me a cake. Megan reluctantly got up and pulled a small, palm-sized cardboard box from the refrigerator. She casually tossed it on the table in front of me. It was on sale at the supermarket. It'll have to do. My hands shaking, I opened the box. Inside was a small, misshapen cake. The frosting had collapsed, and the strawberry on top was half rotten. The price tag read, "Special, $15, limited time offer." "Mom, don't be offended." My son finally glanced at me. Megan meant well. Meant well? I stared at the pathetic cake and suddenly wanted to laugh. My 60th birthday, and this was their so-called good intention. A discounted, deformed, palm-sized cake. "Thank you," I said mechanically, feeling something inside my chest shatter. "Hurry up and cut the cake. We still need to eat," Megan urged. "Oh, and after you cut it, remember to clean up the kitchen. The cleaning lady is coming tomorrow, and she'll charge extra if she sees it's greasy." I picked up the plastic knife, my hand shaking so badly I could barely hold it. At that moment, the recorder seemed to grow even heavier, reminding me of everything it was capturing. "Mom, can you hurry up?" my son said impatiently. "We're hungry." I took a deep breath and made the first cut. The frosting stuck to the knife like a glob of white sludge. "Happy birthday to you," my mother-in-law sang a half-hearted line. The others hummed along for a second, and the ritual was complete. The cake was divided into 7 pieces. They each took a small bite and then pushed their plates aside. My piece remained on its plate, untouched, slowly melting into a pool of sickly sweet liquid. Just like my life, silently collapsing. Dinner continued in a strange atmosphere. They chatted and laughed, discussing their plans for the upcoming Christmas vacation. No one asked if I wanted to go. I was an invisible person, only noticed when it was time to serve food, pour wine, or clear plates. "Mom, can I have another bowl of rice?" my son asked, holding out his empty bowl. "Helen, my tea is cold. Get me another cup," my father-in-law said without looking up. "Grandma, I want fruit," Leo commanded. I spun like a top between the kitchen and the dining room, the recorder in my pocket capturing every order, every harsh word. After dinner, they moved to the living room to watch TV, leaving the table in a complete mess for me to clean up. I mechanically cleared the dishes, their laughter echoing in my ears. Suddenly, one sentence cut through the noise. "Ryan, your mother is becoming more and more useless." She walks so slowly. It was Megan's voice. "Why don't we just send her to a nursing home?" My cousin said the one on the east side of town is pretty good. It's only $3,000 a month. The plate in my hand nearly slipped. I had to grab the edge of the table to steady myself. A nursing home? They wanted to send me to a nursing home? "We'll see." Ryan's voice was full of evasion. "She can still work now. We can talk about it when she really can't move anymore. By then, it'll be too late. The good nursing homes all have waiting lists," Megan pressed. "Besides, this house isn't that big. When Leo gets older, he'll need his own room." I held my breath, waiting for my son's response. Would he speak up for me? Would he remember that this house was bought with the life savings of his father and me? Would he remember that when his startup failed, I sold my gold bracelets to help him pay off his debts? "Fine, fine. You handle it." Ryan's reply was a knife straight through my heart. At that moment, I understood my situation completely. In this family, I was nothing more than a burden, an old thing that could be thrown away at any time. After cleaning the kitchen, I quietly returned to my room, locked the door, and took out the voice recorder. Playing it back, the sound clearly documented the truth of this family. My daughter-in-law's cruelty, my son's indifference, the in-laws' hypocrisy, my grandson's disrespect. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the family portrait on the wall. It was taken 3 years ago. I was squeezed into the very edge of the frame, like a stranger who had accidentally wandered into the shot. Arthur's picture was on the nightstand. He seemed to be looking at me, his eyes filled with reproach. "Helen, how much longer are you going to endure this?" From under the bed, I pulled out an old leather suitcase and began to pack. There wasn't much to pack, really. My entire fortune consisted of a few old clothes, a pair of cloth shoes, a photo album, and a small wooden box. The box contained my dowry, a pair of silver bracelets, the only valuable thing my mother had left me. When my son's business failed, I had sold my gold bracelets to help him, but I had secretly kept these silver ones, thinking I would save them for my future granddaughter-in-law. Now, it seemed, that wasn't necessary. After closing the suitcase, I sat down at my desk and started to write. A letter to my son, telling him why I was leaving. A letter to my daughter-in-law, telling her what respect means. And a letter to my grandson, hoping he wouldn't become like his parents. When I finished, I checked the time. It was 11 o'clock at night. They should all be asleep. except for my son. He had a habit of staying up late to play video games. Pushing my door open gently, I was surprised to find the living room light still on. My son was sitting alone on the sofa, with several documents spread out in front of him. When he saw me, he frowned. "Mom, why are you still up?" "Ryan, I need to talk to you," I said, gathering my courage and walking toward him. "Now?" He glanced at his watch. "I'm busy. I have an important contract to sign tomorrow." "Just 5 minutes," I insisted, sitting down across from him. "Today was my 60th birthday." He froze for a second, his expression a little awkward. "Oh, right. Happy birthday." "That cake. Megan, she—" "It doesn't matter." I cut him off. "Ryan, do you remember when you were 10 and had a fever of 104 degrees? It was me, your mother, who carried you on my back and ran 3 miles to the hospital." "Mom, why are you suddenly bringing this up?" He was clearly getting impatient. "Do you remember when you were in college and liked that girl? It was me who woke up early for 3 months straight to work 2 jobs, just to save enough money to buy her a gift? That's ancient history. Do you remember when your father was sick? It was me who took care of him alone for 2 years, right up until the day he died." My voice started to tremble. "Where were you then?" "I was overseas for a project." My son's face changed. "Mom, what are you trying to say?" "I'm trying to say," I took a deep breath, "that I'm tired. I'm 60 years old. I want to live for myself for once." He looked at me like I was crazy. "What do you mean?" "I'm leaving," I said calmly. "First thing tomorrow morning." "Leaving? To where?" He frowned. "A nursing home?" Megan was just talking. "Don't take it to heart." "Not a nursing home," I stood up. "To a place where I don't have to walk on eggshells." He chuckled. "Mom, you're 60 years old. Where could you possibly go? Stop being dramatic. You have to take Leo to school tomorrow." I didn't answer. I just turned and went back to my room, leaving him sitting there with a bewildered look on his face. Closing the door, I leaned against it, my legs feeling weak. This was the first time I had ever fought back, the first time I had ever said no. Strangely, beyond the fear, I felt a sense of release. Tomorrow, everything would change. At 60 years old, my life was just beginning. Just as the sky began to lighten, I woke up. I hadn't slept well, my dreams filled with the past, my son's adorable smile as a child, my husband's warm embrace, and the home that was once filled with laughter. I got out of bed quietly, put on my warmest clothes, and placed the 3 letters I had written under my pillow. On the dresser, I left the voice recorder and the silver bracelets next to the house keys. These were my parting gifts to my son, so he could hear the truth about this family. Dragging the old suitcase to the front door, I looked back one last time at the house I had lived in for 20 years. The family portrait on the wall, the remote control on the coffee table, my grandson's roller skates by the shoe rack, every object held a memory, but none of them could hold me back any longer. "Mom, what are you doing?" My son's voice came from behind me, making me jump. He was standing at the top of the stairs in his pajamas, his glasses still on, staring intently at my suitcase. "I told you last night." "I'm leaving," I said calmly, my hand already on the doorknob. "You're serious?" He rushed down the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. "Where are you going?" "Why?" "To a place where I am respected." I looked him straight in the eye. "As for why, you'll understand after you listen to what's on that recorder." "What recorder?" "Mom, are you getting senile?" He reached out to grab me, but I dodged him. "Ryan, I rarely used his full name. From the day you were born, I gave you everything. After your father died, I transferred the house to your name, and I used all my retirement savings to support this household. For 5 years, day in and day out, I've served you 3. And what I get in return is being called senile." He was stunned, apparently not expecting me to speak to him this way. You, just calm down." His tone softened. "Did Megan say something to upset you? You know how she is, she speaks before she thinks, but she doesn't have a bad heart." "Doesn't have a bad heart?" I laughed coldly. "She dumps my cooking in the trash in front of me, calls me an old hag, and plans to send me to a nursing home. Is that what you call not having a bad heart?" My son's face turned red, then pale. She didn't mean it like that. Then what did she mean? I shot back. And you, my own son. Have you ever said a single word in my defense? He was speechless, his eyes darting away. Just then, Megan's voice came from upstairs. Ryan, what's all the noise so early in the morning? It's nothing, he called up, then lowered his voice to me. Mom, let's go inside and talk. We don't want the neighbors to hear. There's no need, I said, pulling open the door. A blast of cold air rushed in. I've called a car. Mom, he grabbed my suitcase. You can't just leave like this. What about Leo? Who's going to make his breakfast? Who's going to take him to school? That last sentence was the final straw. I yanked the suitcase back with all my might, my voice trembling with rage. Even now, all you can think about is who is going to serve your son. Ryan, I am not a slave to this family. What's going on? Megan came down the stairs in a silk robe. Seeing my suitcase, her eyebrows shot up. Well, what's this little drama? Running away from home? Megan, that's enough, my son snapped at her, a rare occurrence. He turned back to me. Mom, please calm down. Let's just talk about this. Talk? I laughed, but tears streamed down my face. For 5 years, has anyone ever talked to me? Has anyone ever asked me what I want to eat? Where I want to go? What I want for my birthday? Megan scoffed. You're 60 years old and you're acting like a teenager demanding romance. Isn't having a roof over your head and food to eat enough? Megan. Ryan glared at her. Am I wrong? She crossed her arms. Old lady, if you want to leave, fine. But first, tell us how we've mistreated you. Did we not feed you? Did we not clothe you? I looked at this woman, with her perfect makeup and expensive clothes, and suddenly felt the absurdity of it all. This was the woman I sold my dowry to help my son marry. This was the person I served every day like a queen. You didn't mistreat me, I said calmly. You just never treated me like a human being. With that, I dragged my suitcase out the door. My son ran after me and grabbed my arm. Mom, it's snowing outside. Where can you go? Let go. I shook his hand off. Ruth told me about a senior living community. I'm going to check it out. A senior living community? Megan's eyes lit up. Which one? What are the conditions like? How much is it a month? I ignored her and walked toward the elevator. My son followed me out, barefoot. Mom, don't be rash. At least wait until the snow stops. The elevator door opened. I stepped inside and pressed the button for the first floor. In the final moment before the door closed, I said to my son, there are letters under the pillow, and a recorder and bracelets on the dresser. Listen to it, and think about it. As the elevator descended, my heart felt lighter than it had in years. For the first time in 5 years, I had made a decision for myself. For the first time, I had fought back against unfair treatment. The feeling was surprisingly good. At the entrance to the complex, a taxi was already waiting. The driver was a friendly, middle-aged man who helped me put my suitcase in the trunk. Where to, ma'am? He asked. Willow Creek Senior Living, I said, my voice trembling slightly as I spoke the address. The car started, and the familiar neighborhood scenery slowly receded. The supermarket, the park, my grandson's school. The places that had once made up my entire world were now part of the past. Visiting family, ma'am? The driver asked casually. No, I said, gazing at the falling snow outside the window. I'm going to start a new life. The car drove through the city center and stopped in front of a red brick building. The words Willow Creek stood out brightly against the snow. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw Ruth walking toward me with an umbrella. Helen, you really came, she said warmly, taking my suitcase from me. Come on, let's go see the room. There's a sunny single room that just opened up. I followed her into the lobby, and a wave of warmth washed over me. A few seniors were playing chess, reading, and knitting. When they saw me, they all nodded and smiled in a friendly way. This kind of natural, easy respect was something I hadn't felt in my own home for a very long time. This is the activity room, that's the dining hall, and over there is the library, Ruth explained as she led the way. A doctor comes for checkups every week, and we have a social event once a month. Oh, do you know how to play bridge? We've been looking for a fourth for ages. I couldn't help but smile. A little. But my real skill is cooking. That's fantastic. Her eyes lit up. We're in desperate need of a good cook around here. A lot of the ladies can't stand the cafeteria food. If you're willing, you could organize a little cooking club. We could all chip in for the ingredients. The single room was much nicer than I had imagined. A single bed, a small desk, a wardrobe, a television, and a private bathroom. It had everything. Outside the window was a small garden. Although it was covered in snow now, I could imagine how beautiful it would be in the spring. So, what do you think? Ruth asked expectantly. It's wonderful, I said, running my hand along the windowsill. The sunlight streamed through the glass, warming my skin. So you've decided to stay? I took a deep breath and nodded. At 60 years old, I finally had a space that was completely my own. A place where I didn't have to walk on eggshells. That's great. Ruth clapped her hands. Come on, I'll take you to get the paperwork done, and then you can meet the other ladies. The paperwork was simple. I signed a form and paid a 3-month deposit, which I was able to cover with the money from my silver bracelets. The community director was a very kind, middle-aged woman. When she heard that I used to work in the cafeteria at the textile mill, she immediately invited me to help improve the senior living community's dining services. Helen, we are so in need of an experienced chef like you, she said enthusiastically. If you're willing, you could give our cooks some suggestions, or even teach a class on home-style cooking every now and then. I readily agreed. It felt so good to be needed. At noon, Ruth took me to the dining hall. The food was served buffet style. It was simple, but clean and wholesome. A few elderly ladies warmly invited me to sit with them, and they chattered away, asking me where I was from and what I used to do for work. I used to work at the textile mill, I said shyly. Later, I helped out in the cafeteria, and then I retired to take care of my grandson. How old is your grandson? A woman with a full head of silver hair asked. 8, I replied, a sudden pang of sadness hitting me. Was Leo out of school yet? Who was picking him up? Who was making him dinner? Missing your grandson? Ruth sensed my change in mood and gently patted my hand. It's always like this at the beginning. It gets better after a while. Besides, it's not like you can't see him. If you miss him, just go visit. I forced a smile and looked down at my plate. Just then, my phone rang. It was my son. I hesitated for a moment, but then I answered. Mom, are you really there? His voice was frantic. I just listened to the recording. I had no idea Megan said those things. It was all recorded, I said calmly. Mom, I'm sorry. I really didn't know. Please come back. We can talk this out. No, I said, looking out at the snowy landscape. I'm happy here. But Leo keeps asking where Grandma went. He really misses you. My heart softened at the mention of my grandson, but it hardened again just as quickly. Ryan, I love you, and I love Leo. But first and foremost, I am a person with dignity. If you and Leo want to see me, you can come here, but I will not go back to being your unpaid maid. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. Finally, he said, Mom, I'll bring Leo to see you tomorrow. After hanging up, I realized the ladies at my table were all looking at me with eyes full of understanding and approval. Good for you, Ruth said, putting a piece of fish on my plate. When children are ungrateful, we old folks have to stand up for ourselves. Was I too harsh? I asked in a small voice. Leo is still so young. Harsh? An elderly woman with glasses scoffed. When my daughter kicked me out of her house, that was harsh. If you don't set boundaries now, you'll have even less standing later. In the afternoon, I joined the community's craft class and learned how to make decorative knots. My fingers weren't as nimble as they used to be, but I slowly got the hang of it. In the evening, I watched TV and chatted with a few of the other ladies. I listened to their stories. Some had been cast aside by their children, some had chosen to move out on their own, and some had no children at all. It turned out I wasn't alone. There were so many seniors, all fighting to live with their own dignity. Before going to bed, I stood by the window, looking out at the city lights twinkling in the snow. I wondered what my son was doing. Had he listened to the entire recording? Had he read my letters? Was Leo crying for his grandma? My phone buzzed again. It was a text message. I opened it. It was a voice message from Leo. "Grandma, where are you? I want you to make me your pancakes." Listening to my grandson's innocent voice, the tears finally came. But this time, I didn't regret my decision. At 60 years old, I had learned to say no. I had learned to live for myself. And perhaps that was the best birthday gift of all. The morning at Willow Creek Senior Living was much livelier than I had imagined. Just as the sky was beginning to lighten, I could hear the soft shuffle of feet and hushed laughter in the hallway. I opened the curtains and saw several elderly ladies already in the small garden below, doing their morning exercises. Their movements were synchronized and graceful, looking especially vibrant in the morning light. "Helen, are you up?" Ruth's voice came from outside my door, followed by a gentle knock. I quickly put on my robe and opened the door. Ruth was standing there with a tray, on which sat a steaming bowl of oatmeal and 2 small muffins. "I know you're not used to the cafeteria yet, so I brought you some breakfast," she said with a warm smile. "Eat up, and I'll come back later to introduce you to some of the local celebrities around here." I took the tray, a wave of warmth spreading through my chest. How long had it been since someone brought me breakfast? Since Arthur passed away, I was always the first one up every morning, preparing breakfast for the whole family, but no one ever cared what I wanted to eat. "Thank you, this is too much trouble," I said, a little embarrassed. "Don't be silly," Ruth waved her hand. "Here, all the seniors look out for each other. Take your time eating. I'll be back at 8 o'clock to get you." Closing the door, I sat at the small table and slowly savored the simple breakfast. The oatmeal was cooked perfectly, thick and creamy. The muffins were soft and fluffy with a hint of sweetness. Compared to the scraps I used to hurriedly swallow at my son's house, this breakfast felt like a feast. After eating, I washed up and began to organize the few clothes I had brought. The small room, though not large, was filled with sunlight. The wardrobe, desk, and nightstand were all in good condition. There were even a few landscape paintings on the wall, adding a touch of homeliness to the space. From the bottom of my suitcase, I took out the old photo album and gently caressed the cover. It held my entire life, the innocence of my youth, the joy of my wedding day, the pride of holding my newborn son, and the years of growing old with Arthur. The last few photos were of the whole family. I was squeezed into the very edge, looking like an outsider. Knock, knock, knock. The door sounded again. I opened it to find Ruth, now changed into a bright red jacket that made her look incredibly energetic. "Wow, Helen, that outfit." She looked my faded old robe up and down and frowned. No, that won't do. Today is a big day. You have to dress up a bit." "What big day?" I asked, confused. "It's the monthly senior talent show," she said excitedly. "You're just in time. You can show off your cooking skills." I quickly waved my hands. No, I don't have any talents." "Don't be so modest," Ruth said, pulling me out the door without taking no for an answer. "The community director was just saying yesterday that she wanted to ask you to help improve the cafeteria food. This is the perfect opportunity." She half dragged me to the activity room, which was already filled with more than 20 seniors, all chatting and laughing. It was a lively scene. When they saw us, a few of the ladies waved enthusiastically. "You must be the newcomer, Helen. Come, sit over here." I was seated in the front row, with a small table of fruit and tea in front of me. The community director, Miss Davis, walked onto the small stage and clapped her hands. "All right, everyone. It's time for our favorite event of the month, the talent show. Today, we have a special welcome for our new resident, Helen Fung." Everyone turned to look at me, applauding and smiling. I nodded awkwardly, my face flushing. "Helen used to be a key member of the cafeteria staff at the textile mill," Miss Davis continued. "Her cooking skills are legendary. Today, we are honored to have her show us one of her signature dishes. What do you all say?" The applause grew even louder. I stood up, flustered, and stammered. I didn't prepare anything." "That's okay," Miss Davis said with a smile. "The kitchen has already prepared all the ingredients and equipment. You can make anything you like." And just like that, I was pushed onto a small, temporary cooking station. Looking at the fresh ingredients and gleaming utensils on the counter, I suddenly felt a long-lost sensation, the feeling of being needed, of being respected. "Well, I'll just make a simple meatball dish then," I said, rolling up my sleeves and washing my hands. For the next half an hour, I was completely immersed in the joy of cooking. The ground meat became tender and elastic in my hands, and the proportions of the various seasonings were etched into my memory. When I dropped the meatballs into the hot oil, a delicious aroma filled the entire activity room. "That smells amazing," the seniors exclaimed, some even crowding around to watch me work. After the meatballs were done, I used the remaining ingredients to quickly stir-fry some sweet and sour cabbage. The two dishes were placed on the display table, a feast for the eyes and the nose, drawing gasps of admiration. "Helen, this is incredible," Miss Davis said, taking a bite of a meatball. Her eyes lit up. Crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, and seasoned just right. It's even more authentic than my mother's. The seniors took turns tasting the food, all of them praising it endlessly. I stood to the side, watching their satisfied expressions, a sense of accomplishment swelling in my chest. How long had it been since I was genuinely praised like this? At my son's house, my cooking was never healthy enough, never refined enough, always criticized. "Helen, would you be willing to teach a cooking class for us once a week?" Miss Davis suddenly asked. "The community will cover the cost of ingredients. You would just need to teach everyone how to make these home-style dishes." I was stunned. Teach a class? Me, a retired factory worker with only a high school education? I can't," I stammered, shaking my head. "I'm not educated. I don't know how to teach." "Who says?" Ruth interjected. "Your skill is the best education. None of us old folks care about diplomas." That's right, the other seniors chimed in. "Helen, please teach us." Looking at their expectant faces, I found myself nodding. The applause erupted again, even more enthusiastic than before. In that moment, I finally understood what it felt like to be needed. After the talent show, Miss Davis took me on a tour of the community's shared kitchen. It was spacious and bright, with modern equipment, even nicer than the kitchen at my son's house. "Helen, from now on, this is your domain," Miss Davis said with a smile. "How about a cooking class on Tuesday and Thursday mornings?" "Okay," I nodded, then suddenly remembered something. "What about buying the ingredients?" "Don't worry about that," Miss Davis interrupted. "We have regular suppliers. You just need to give us a list in advance. As for payment, no payment needed," I said quickly. "I'm happy to do something for everyone." "That won't do," Miss Davis said firmly. "According to community rules, instructors get a teaching fee. It's $200 per class. Please don't refuse. $200. I was secretly astonished. At my son's house, that was just a day's worth of grocery money. But for me, it was income earned through my own labor, money that was completely mine. At noon, I had a hearty lunch in the cafeteria and chatted animatedly with some of my new friends. I had just returned to my room for a nap when my phone suddenly rang. It was my son, Ryan. "Mom," his voice sounded exhausted. "Leo and I are at the front gate. The security guard won't let us in without your permission." My heart skipped a beat. They had really come. I looked at the time. It was only 1:30 in the afternoon. Shouldn't Leo be in school? "Wait there. I'll come down and get you," I said, hanging up. I quickly smoothed my hair and clothes. At the community entrance, my son was holding Leo's hand, standing in the cold wind. Ryan was dressed in a suit but looked haggard. Leo was in his school uniform, his eyes red as if he had been crying. "Grandma!" As soon as he saw me, Leo let go of his father's hand and ran into my arms. I knelt down to catch him. The familiar scent of children's shampoo filled my nose, and I felt a sting in my own. "Sweetie, why aren't you in school?" I faked a stomachache. Leo whispered into my shoulder. "So Dad came to get me." "Grandma, I miss you." I looked up at my son. He explained awkwardly. "He refused to go to school this morning. He just kept crying and asking for you." I didn't know what else to do. "Come in," I sighed, taking Leo's hand and leading them inside. As we passed the activity room, a few ladies playing bridge greeted us warmly. "Helen, is this your grandson?" He's so cute. Helen, this must be your son. He's very handsome. Ryan was clearly not used to being greeted so warmly by strangers and just nodded stiffly. Leo, on the other hand, quickly made friends with the ladies. One gave him a piece of candy, another patted his head. Soon, he was calling them Grandma, too. Mom, you seem to be very popular here, Ryan said, his tone complex, as he looked around my room. Yes, everyone is very kind, I replied simply, busy getting some fruit for Leo. Grandma, is this your new home? Leo asked curiously, touching everything in the room. It's so small, even smaller than my room. Yes, but it's big enough for just Grandma, I said, stroking his hair. Ryan sat in the only chair, looking like he had something to say but didn't know how to start. Finally, he spoke. Mom, I listened to the recording. I had no idea Megan said all those things. You had no idea? Or you chose to ignore it? I asked calmly, peeling an orange for Leo. He fell silent, looking down at his hands. Leo leaned against me, quietly eating his orange, his big eyes darting back and forth between us. Probably both, Ryan finally admitted after a long pause. I knew Megan could be harsh sometimes, but I just thought you wouldn't take it to heart. Because I'm your mother, I should just endure everything unconditionally. My voice trembled slightly. Ryan, mothers are people too. We have hearts, and they can hurt. I know I was wrong, Mom. He looked up, his eyes red. Megan and I had a huge fight last night. I played the recording for her. At first, she tried to deny it, but then what? I couldn't help but ask. Then she cried. She said her parents treated her grandmother the same way growing up, so she thought that was a normal relationship between a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. This was unexpected. Megan crying? Admitting she was wrong? Grandma, Mommy cried yesterday too, Leo suddenly piped up. She said she shouldn't have thrown your cake in the trash. I was stunned. What cake? Ryan explained awkwardly. For your 60th birthday. Megan had actually ordered a big cake, but she got angry because the bakery delivered it late. In a fit of temper, she just threw it away and bought that small one from the supermarket. So that's what happened. Behind that small, discounted cake, there was another story. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Mom, please come home with me. My son suddenly grabbed my hand. I promise Megan will respect you from now on, and I'll be more attentive. You can't be all alone here. I'm not alone. I gently pulled my hand away. I have many new friends, and I have a job here. A job? He looked at me in disbelief. Yes, I teach a cooking class, twice a week. I couldn't help but feel a little proud. And I get paid for it. Ryan looked like he had been struck by lightning. You're teaching a class here, and they're paying you? What? You don't think your mom is capable? I asked, half jokingly. No, it's not that. He stammered. Then what about at home? Who will take Leo to and from school? Who will make dinner? Ryan, I interrupted him. I love you, and I love Leo. But I can't spend the rest of my life revolving around you. I have the right to live my own life. My words were like a bucket of cold water poured over his head. He stared at me, as if seeing his mother for the first time. Then, what about us? He asked in a small voice. You can come visit me any time, I said softly. And I can go visit Leo on the weekends. But we all need some space and time to think and to change. When it was time for them to leave, Leo clung to my leg, refusing to let go, crying his heart out. Grandma, come home with me. I don't want you to live here. I fought back tears and knelt down to his level. Sweetie, Grandma isn't leaving you. Grandma just needs her own little house. You can come visit me any time, and I'll come visit you often, okay? Really? He sniffled. Really? Grandma promises. I kissed his little cheek. Next week, I'll come over and make you your favorite pancakes. How about that? After finally seeing them off, I sat on the edge of my bed, completely exhausted. My phone vibrated. It was a text from my son. Mom, thank you for still being willing to give us a chance. We will change. I'll bring Leo to see you this weekend. Love you. The simple words love you made the tears flow freely. How many years had it been since my son had so directly expressed his feelings? Perhaps change was really possible. That evening, I joined the community movie night. It was a light-hearted family comedy, and the seniors were all laughing heartily. After the movie, we sat around drinking tea and chatting. The conversation naturally turned to our families. My son hasn't visited me in 3 years, an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen said calmly. But that's okay. I'm doing just fine here. My daughter visits often, another woman added. But every time she comes, she complains about how expensive the community fees are, hinting that I should transfer the house to her name soon. Listening to their stories, I suddenly realized that I wasn't the only parent who had been hurt by their children. In this seemingly harmonious society, how many seniors were crying silently in the corners of their own homes? "What about you, Helen? Why did you come here?" someone asked me. I hesitated for a moment, then briefly shared my story. I told them about my daughter-in-law calling me an old hag, about my son's indifference, about the birthday cake that was thrown in the trash. "Good for you," Ruth slammed her hand on the table. "You have to show them you mean business. Young people these days are just so entitled." "Didn't your son visit you today?" Mrs. Chen asked perceptively. "Did he apologize?" "Sort of," I said quietly. "He said they would change." "Don't get your hopes up," an old gentleman with glasses said coldly. "A leopard can't change its spots." The others looked at him reproachfully, but he was unfazed. "I'm telling the truth. When children are ungrateful, we seniors have to be strong. Helen has friends here, she has a job. Why go back and suffer?" His words were like a knife, cutting into the softest part of my heart. He was right. Deep down, wasn't I also afraid that my son's change was just a fleeting moment? Back in my room, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. The moonlight spilled onto the floor like a silver road, leading to an unknown future. At 60 years old, I had embarked on this journey of self-discovery. I didn't know if the road ahead was filled with thorns or flowers, but at least, this time, I had made the choice for myself. My first weekend at Willow Creek, I woke up early. Today was the day my son was supposed to bring Leo to visit. Though I told myself I didn't care, I couldn't help but tidy up my room over and over again. I even borrowed an electric hot plate and a small pan from the cafeteria to make Leo his favorite pancakes. "Well, well, Helen, what's all the hustle and bustle so early in the morning?" Ruth said, poking her head in. Seeing me mixing batter, she teased. "Your grandson is coming, so excited you couldn't sleep, huh?" I smiled sheepishly. "Leo just loves the pancakes I make. He says the ones from the store aren't soft enough. If you ask me, you're too soft-hearted." Ruth shook her head. "Your son says a few nice words, and you're ready to surrender." "It's not surrendering," I said, stirring the batter. "I'm just giving him a chance, and giving Leo a complete family. You." She sighed and didn't say more. "Need any help?" "No, I've got it all under control," I said, checking the time. They said they'd be here at 10 o'clock. Still have 2 hours. After Ruth left, I sat by the window, lost in thought. Since my son's visit 3 days ago, we had spoken briefly on the phone every day. He told me he had hired a nanny to take Leo to and from school, and that Megan had started trying to cook, though she had made a mess of the kitchen. It sounded like they were really trying to change. But Ruth's words made me uneasy. Was I too soft-hearted? Could years of hurt be erased by a few phone calls? At 9:45, my phone rang. It was my son. "Mom," his voice was a little nervous. "We're at the gate, but Megan came too. Is that okay?" Megan. My hand trembled, and I nearly knocked over the bowl of batter. What was she doing here? To apologize? Or to confront me? Yes. I'll come down and get you," I said, hanging up. I took a few deep breaths to calm myself. At the community entrance, the family of 3 stood together. Ryan was in a sharp suit, Leo in cute overalls, and Megan, I almost didn't recognize her. She wore no makeup, had none of her usual arrogant posture. She was dressed in a simple t-shirt and jeans, and she was holding a fruit basket. "Grandma." Leo was the first to run over and hug me. "Mom?" Ryan walked over with a smile and gave me a light hug. Megan stood where she was, her eyes darting around, unable to meet my gaze. Finally, Ryan gave her a little nudge, and she slowly walked over. Helen, she said haltingly, handing me the fruit basket. This is for you. I was stunned. In 5 years, this was the first time she had called me by my name instead of old lady or old thing. I took the basket and nodded. Thank you, let's go up. The elevator ride was so awkward you could feel it. Leo chattered on about school, and Ryan would occasionally chime in, while Megan stood in the corner like a shadow, silent. Once in my room, Leo was immediately drawn to the small, succulent plant on the windowsill. Grandma, what's this? It's so cute. That's a succulent. Grandma Ruth gave it to me, I said, stroking his hair. Are you hungry? I'll make you some pancakes. Yay, Leo cheered. I took out the ingredients and started cooking on the small hot plate. Ryan sat nearby, looking around my small room with curiosity. Mom, are you comfortable living here? It's very nice, I said, flipping a pancake. Everyone is very friendly, and there are lots of activities. I heard you're even teaching a cooking class, he said with a smile. I never would have guessed. Your mom has a lot of hidden talents, I said half-jokingly. It's just that no one ever noticed before. The smell of pancakes soon filled the small room. Leo leaned over the table, his eyes glued to the pan. Grandma, it smells so good, much better than when Mommy cooks. Leo, Megan said softly, a flicker of hurt crossing her face. I pretended not to hear and placed the first pancake on a plate for Leo. Be careful, it's hot. What happened next stunned me. Megan suddenly stood up and bowed deeply to me. Helen, I'm sorry. The gesture shocked not only me but also Ryan and Leo. When Megan straightened up, her eyes were red. I listened to the recording. I didn't know I had said such horrible things. She choked up, unable to continue. Ryan quickly went to her and put an arm around her shoulder, explaining to me, Mom, Megan has been feeling terrible these past few days. She had some issues with her family growing up. Her mother was very harsh to her grandmother, so she thought that was normal. I looked at my daughter-in-law, who suddenly seemed like a stranger, and felt a mix of emotions. Her apology seemed sincere, but I couldn't forget the years of being pierced by her words. Let's eat breakfast first, was all I could say, turning back to the pancakes. Breakfast was eaten in a strange silence. Leo devoured 3 pancakes, and Ryan also praised them, but Megan only ate a small piece before saying she was full. Helen, she said suddenly, Can I talk to you alone? Ryan took the hint and stood up. I'll take Leo down to the garden for a bit. Mom, you two take your time. After they left, the room was silent except for the sound of my own rapid breathing. Helen, she finally broke the silence, her voice barely a whisper. I know saying sorry doesn't change anything, but I am truly, truly sorry. Why? I looked her straight in the eye. Because the recording was discovered? Because Ryan fought with you? Or because your parents scolded you? She looked up sharply, a flash of shock in her eyes, which then dimmed. All of those things, I guess. But mainly, it was because I heard what you said to Ryan. What did I say? You said that mothers are people too, that mothers have hearts and they can hurt. Her tears started to fall. It made me think of my own mother, and whether she broke down crying. I awkwardly handed her a tissue, the hard wall around my heart beginning to crack. I grew up watching my grandmother serve the whole family like a servant, she sobbed. My mother ordered her around, my father ignored it. I thought that was just how it was supposed to be between mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law. So when you got married, you started treating me the way your mother treated your grandmother, I said softly. She nodded in shame. I thought that was how I was supposed to establish my place as the lady of the house. I was wrong. Looking at her trembling shoulders, I suddenly understood. This sharp, cruel daughter-in-law was also a child hurt by her own family. Her cruelty wasn't innate. It had been passed down. Megan, I sighed. Do you know what hurt me the most over these past 5 years? It wasn't how you treated me. It was that you taught Leo to treat me that way too. She flinched, and the tears fell faster. I know. Leo isn't close to me anymore. He thinks I'm the one who drove you away. This is my punishment. It's not a punishment, I said, handing her a glass of water. It's just a child's natural reaction. He loves me. So when he saw you hurting me, he naturally pulled away from you. What should I do? She looked up, her eyes filled with desperation. I don't want Leo to hate me, and I don't want you to hate me. In that moment, I saw the fragile little girl beneath her hard shell. Perhaps we had both been wearing masks for too long, forgetting who we really were. I don't hate you, I said softly. But I need time. Trust isn't lost in a day, and it can't be regained in a day either. She nodded, wiping her tears. I understand, Helen. I'm not asking you to forgive me right away. I just hope you can give Ryan and Leo a chance. They really miss you. Just then, the door opened and Leo burst in. Grandma, Dad bought me ice cream. Seeing his mother crying, he froze. What's wrong, Mommy? Mommy's fine. Megan forced a smile. Just got some dust in my eye. Oh, Leo said, not quite understanding. He turned to me excitedly. Grandma, the garden downstairs is huge, and there's a swing set. Grandma Ruth said there's a craft class this afternoon. Can I join? Of course you can, I smiled, stroking his hair. I looked at my son. Are you staying for lunch? The cafeteria food is pretty good. Ryan's eyes lit up. Sure, Mom, that sounds great. No, that's okay. Megan stood up suddenly. We shouldn't bother you. Leo, say goodbye to Grandma. Ah, why? Leo pouted. I want to play with Grandma more. Next time, sweetie, she said with a weak smile, her eyes shifting nervously. Mommy just remembered she has something to do. I understood her discomfort and didn't press. That's fine. Come again next time. Leo, let me pack some cookies for you to take home. As I saw them to the elevator, Ryan quietly pulled me aside. Mom, Megan, she apologized, I said simply. But I need time. He nodded, his eyes full of complex emotions. I understand. Mom, thank you. Watching the elevator doors close, I let out a long breath. This sudden reconciliation had left me exhausted, but it also gave me a flicker of hope. Maybe change really was possible. In the afternoon, I took Leo to the craft class as promised. He was very good with his hands and, with Ruth's help, made a beautiful little clay bowl, which he proudly announced he would take home for his dad. Grandma, when are you coming home? He asked innocently as he was leaving. I want to play with you every day. Grandma lives here now, sweetie. I knelt down to his level. But you can come visit me any time, okay? Okay, he nodded reluctantly. I'll come again next weekend. As my son's car drove away, Ruth patted my shoulder. So, how did it go with your daughter-in-law? She apologized, I said quietly. She said she grew up watching her mom mistreat her grandma and thought it was normal. Humph, excuses, Ruth said dismissively. In my day, what daughter-in-law would dare be disrespectful to her mother-in-law? Now they all use their dysfunctional families as a shield. But she seemed genuinely sorry. Helen, you're too kind. Ruth shook her head. Be careful not to fall into the same trap again. Back in my room, I lay on the bed, replaying the day's events. Megan's tears, my son's hope, Leo's innocence. Should I trust that they had changed? Should I give this family another chance? My phone vibrated. It was a picture from my son. Leo was proudly holding up his clay bowl, with the caption, Leo said this is for Grandma, to hold candy when you come home. I smiled and saved the picture, but didn't reply. I needed more time. Time to think, time to heal, and time to decide which path to take. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the entire room in a golden hue. At 60 years old, I had finally learned to say no, and I had also learned to listen to my own heart. Whatever my final decision, this time, I was going to live for myself. The morning broadcast at Willow Creek had just started when I was jolted awake by a frantic knocking on my door. Helen! Helen! Open up! It was Miss Davis's voice, sounding both excited and urgent. I hurriedly threw on my robe and opened the door to find Miss Davis beaming, waving a newspaper in her hand. You're in the paper! You're in the paper! What? I took the newspaper from her, completely bewildered. On the front page of the community section, the headline read, 60-year-old woman bravely seeks dignity, becomes senior social media star with culinary skills. Next to it was a photo of me making meatballs at the talent show. What? What is this? My hand trembled slightly. A reporter came to cover our talent show yesterday and was really interested when he saw you teaching your cooking class, Miss Davis explained excitedly. I didn't expect it to be published today, and on the front page, no less. I read the article, my heart beating faster and faster. The reporter not only described my cooking in detail, but also interviewed several seniors about their opinions of my food. He even mentioned my experience of choosing to live independently after enduring verbal abuse from my daughter-in-law. Isn't this a bit of an exaggeration? I asked nervously. Exaggeration? It's all true. Miss Davis patted my shoulder. Helen, you're going to be famous. 3 different news outlets have already called this morning asking to interview you. Sure enough, within an hour, my small room was crowded with reporters from 2 different media outlets. They were extremely interested in my story of transformation, from a downtrodden mother-in-law to a culinary expert. The questions came one after another. Helen, what made you decide to leave your son's home? Does your daughter-in-law know that you're teaching cooking classes here? What are your thoughts on the widespread issue of disrespect towards the elderly in society today? Facing the cameras and microphones, my palms were sweating, but I tried my best to calmly recount my experiences. Of course, omitting my family's real names and some of the more private details. I'm not here to accuse anyone, I said to the camera. I just want to tell all the seniors like me that age is not a reason to be disrespected. We have the right to live with dignity, to pursue our own value. After the interviews, I sat on the edge of my bed, exhausted. But my phone started ringing off the hook. Texts, messages, missed calls, almost all my old colleagues and neighbors had seen the report and were sending their support. The most surprising call was from my son, Ryan. Mom. His voice was a mix of excitement and anxiety. You're in the paper. The whole office is talking about it. You saw it? What about Megan? I asked nervously. She saw it too. He paused. She's upset that you made our family matters public, but she also understands that it's your right. I breathed a sigh of relief, but also felt a twinge of guilt. Maybe I should have told them beforehand. Mom, the reporters didn't reveal our identities, did they? He asked worriedly. No, I made sure not to mention your names, I reassured him. I just wanted to share my story. Maybe it can help other seniors in similar situations. I understand, he said softly. Mom, I'm proud of you. Really? That phrase, I'm proud of you, made my nose sting. For so many years, I had been the one who was proud of his achievements. Today, it was the other way around. Not long after I hung up, the front desk at the community called to say I had visitors. When I went downstairs, I saw the community director in a formal suit, along with several middle-aged people I didn't recognize. Helen, the director shook my hand warmly. These are officials from the City Council on Aging. They saw your story and came specially to visit you. It turned out my story had caught the attention of the City Council on Aging. They were planning an Elder Appreciation Month and wanted to invite me to be a senior dignity ambassador and to lead a public project on preserving traditional cuisine. Helen, your experience and your culinary skills are very representative. An official named Mr. Chen said sincerely. We hope to use your influence to raise public awareness of the rights of the elderly. I stood there, flustered, never imagining I would suddenly become a public figure. With the encouragement of Ruth and Miss Davis, I finally agreed to participate, but I insisted on doing only what I was capable of. After seeing the officials off, Miss Davis announced excitedly, Helen, you're going to be a celebrity, and our community will get some recognition too. The news spread like wildfire. At lunch, all the seniors in the dining hall looked at me with admiration, and people kept coming over to shake my hand and congratulate me. This feeling of being respected and valued was both strange and wonderful. In the afternoon, as I was about to rest, my phone rang again. It was an unknown number. Hello, is this Miss Helen Fung? A young woman's voice asked. I'm a reporter from Family Magazine, and I'd like to schedule an interview with you. For the next few days, my life was turned upside down. Interviews, photo shoots, and meeting invitations came one after another. The local television station even sent a film crew to the community to film me teaching my cooking class and my daily life. "Helen, is this angle okay?" The young cameraman kept adjusting his equipment. "Do I sound natural when I talk like this?" Facing the camera, my palms were sweating. "You're doing great," the female host encouraged me. "Just be yourself, like you're teaching a normal class." Gradually, I got used to the attention. The other seniors also got used to the film crew, and some even took the initiative to praise my cooking and character on camera. "Helen is our star here," Ruth said into the microphone. "Her meatballs are even better than those from a 5-star hotel." The most surprising thing was that all this publicity brought about real change. The community allocated funds to upgrade the kitchen equipment. The Council on Aging organized a traditional food culture workshop with me as a consultant, and several restaurant businesses even contacted me about buying my private recipes. "Helen, look at this proposal." Miss Davis showed me a contract excitedly. "A well-known restaurant wants to hire you as a consultant, 1 visit a month, for $2,000 each time." $2,000. That was half of my previous monthly retirement pension. Holding the pen, my hand trembled so much I could barely sign my name. At 60 years old, for the first time, someone was paying for my knowledge and skills. For the first time, someone truly recognized my value. However, as my exposure grew, so did the pressure on my son's family. Although the reports had omitted their real information, the news had spread among their acquaintances. "Mom," Ryan's voice was tired over the phone. "Megan's parents are furious. They say we mistreated an elder. My colleagues at work are also gossiping. I understand this is your life, but it's affecting your lives, isn't it?" I asked softly. "No, that's not what I mean," he said hastily. "We deserve this. It's just Leo. At school, his classmates are asking if it's true his mom drove his grandma away. He's very upset." My heart ached. The conflicts between the adults had ultimately hurt an innocent child. "I'll handle it," I promised him. "Don't worry about Leo." After hanging up, I immediately contacted the reporter from Family Magazine and asked her to specifically state in the follow-up report that my decision was a personal choice, that my son and daughter-in-law had realized their mistakes and were actively trying to improve, and I hoped the public would not disturb their lives. "Helen, you are too kind," the young reporter sighed. "Still thinking of protecting your family in this situation." "They are my family," I said simply. "Conflict is one thing, love is another." After the follow-up report was published, public opinion did indeed soften. My son sent me a text to thank me, saying that Megan was deeply moved and was trying hard to be a better daughter-in-law. As Elder Appreciation Month approached, my schedule became increasingly packed. In addition to my twice-weekly cooking classes, I had to participate in citywide promotional events, give media interviews, and prepare for a traditional food exhibition. "Helen, you don't look so well lately," Ruth said with concern. "Don't push yourself too hard. Your health is important." "I'm fine." I smiled and shook my head. Being busy actually gives me energy. But the body is always honest. One busy morning, while demonstrating how to season a dish, I suddenly felt dizzy and nearly fainted at the cooking station. "Helen!" the students cried out, rushing to support me. "Miss!" Davis immediately called the community doctor. After an examination, the doctor said sternly, "Overexertion and an irregular diet. Your blood pressure is a bit high. Helen, you need to rest for a few days." When the news got out, the Council on Aging sent a young woman named Sarah to be my temporary assistant, to help me handle various tasks and ensure I didn't overwork myself. "Helen, today you're just in charge of giving directions," Sarah said energetically. "Leave the heavy lifting to us young people." With her help, my life became much easier, and I was able to better enjoy this unexpected new career. Gradually, I found that I was no longer just Ryan's mother or Leo's grandmother. I had become the respected Chef Helen, Consultant Fung, and even Master Helen. The opening ceremony for Elder Appreciation Month was held in the city's cultural plaza. As the Senior Dignity Ambassador, I was invited to give a speech. Hundreds of seniors and citizens sat in the audience, along with cameras from multiple media outlets. Friends, I stood at the microphone, my voice trembling slightly with nervousness. A few months ago, I was just an unknown housewife, my days revolving around the stove and my grandson, enduring the cold words of my daughter-in-law. As I spoke, I gradually relaxed, telling my story how on my humiliating 60th birthday, I decided to fight back. How I found a new purpose in life at the senior living community, and how I rebuilt my relationship with my son's family. Age is not a limitation, but a new starting point, I said into the microphone. Every senior has unique value and talent, and deserves to be respected and loved. Today, I stand here to tell all the seniors like me, it is never too late to live bravely for yourself. The applause was thunderous and went on for a long time. After my speech, a city official personally presented me with a model senior certificate and medal. The media swarmed me for interviews, the flashbulbs so bright I could barely open my eyes. On the outskirts of the crowd, I suddenly saw a familiar figure. It was my son, Ryan. He stood there in a sharp suit, holding Leo's hand. When he saw that I had noticed them, Leo waved excitedly. "Grandma, Grandma." I apologized to the staff and quickly walked toward them. Ryan's eyes were shining with pride. "Mom, you were amazing. What are you two doing here?" I asked, surprised, bending down to hug Leo as he ran to me. "The city sent an invitation," my son explained with a smile. "I took the day off to bring Leo to see you shine." "Grandma is so cool," Leo said, looking up at me with admiration. "Everyone was clapping for you." In that moment, all the hardship, all the grievances, felt worthwhile. I held my grandson's hand with one hand and linked arms with my son with the other, feeling a long-lost family warmth. "Where's Megan?" I asked softly. She was too embarrassed to come," Ryan said awkwardly. "But she wanted me to tell you that she's proud of you." "Really?" I nodded, not asking further. Change takes time. I knew that better than anyone. After the event, my son insisted on treating me to a nice dinner. In the restaurant, Leo excitedly looked at my certificate and medal, while Ryan seriously looked at my recent photos and reports. "Mom," he said suddenly, "I never knew you were so outstanding." "That's because you never really looked at me," I said half-jokingly. "In your eyes, I was probably just a piece of furniture that could walk and cook." His face turned red. "I'm sorry, Mom. It's okay." I patted his hand. "Let the past be the past. The important thing is that we're all trying to be better now, aren't we?" He nodded, his eyes glistening with tears. Leo, not understanding what was going on, looked back and forth between us, then announced loudly, "When I grow up, I want to be on TV like Grandma." We all laughed. In that moment, I saw a glimmer of hope for the future. A family relationship built on mutual respect and understanding was being rebuilt. Back at the community, I carefully placed the certificate and medal on my nightstand, next to the family portrait. At 60 years old, my life had just begun. And this time, I would live for myself, and I would also speak up for all the seniors like me. Autumn at Willow Creek was especially beautiful. The ginkgo trees in the courtyard were dressed in gold. When the breeze blew, the leaves fell like rain, carpeting the ground in a golden blanket. I stood by the window, admiring the picturesque scenery, holding a freshly brewed cup of chrysanthemum tea. Through the steam, my thoughts drifted. Since the Elder Appreciation Month event, my life had changed dramatically. Besides continuing to teach cooking classes at the community, I was also invited to participate in several citywide senior charity projects, and I even began to compile a cookbook of traditional family recipes. Sarah, my temporary assistant, had been so outstanding that the Council on Aging had officially appointed her as my full-time assistant. "Helen, what do you think of this layout design?" Sarah turned her laptop toward me. On the screen was a draft of the cookbook. The publisher said, if all goes well, it could be printed next month. I leaned in for a closer look. "Make the font a little bigger. We seniors don't have the best eyesight." "Got it," she said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "Oh, and that cooking show on the local TV station sent another invitation. Have you considered it?" I shook my head. "Let's pass. I get too nervous on camera. They should find some younger people." "But you're a ratings guarantee," Sarah insisted. The last episode you were on broke records. Just then, my phone rang. It was my son, Ryan. Mom. His voice sounded a bit weary. Are you free today? I'd like to talk to you, alone. Of course, I said, checking my watch. What time can you get here? I'm already at the gate. I looked out the window in surprise and saw my son's car parked by the curb. He was leaning against the car door, looking up at my window. Come on up, I said into the phone. I'll make you some tea. After hanging up, I quickly tidied up the room. Since the event, my son had been bringing Leo to visit me every week, but this was the first time he had come alone. My intuition told me he had something important to say. A knock sounded at the door. I opened it to find my son standing there in a suit, holding a fancy cake box. Mom, he said, a little awkwardly. I hope I'm not interrupting your work. Not at all, come in, I said, taking the cake box. It was heavy. What's this? To make up for your birthday cake, he said softly. The one from last year. My fingers trembled slightly. The palm-sized, discounted cake from a year ago stood in stark contrast to the exquisite gift box in my hands. Thank you, I said softly, placing the cake on the table. Have a seat. The tea will be ready in a minute. My son looked around my small room, his gaze lingering on the medals and certificates on the nightstand, then sweeping over the photos of me with the other seniors, and finally landing on the stack of cookbook manuscripts on my desk. Mom, you're really incredible, he said, sitting in the only chair, his tone complex. I never imagined you could achieve all this. What achievements? I smiled, handing him a cup of tea. It's just some home cooking that a few people happen to appreciate. No, he shook his head. It's not just the cooking, it's you. Your resilience, your courage. His voice choked up. I'm so sorry. The teacup trembled in his hands, and a few drops splashed onto his suit pants, but he didn't seem to notice. Why are you suddenly saying this? I sat down across from him. Let the past be the past. I can't, Mom. He looked up, his eyes red. I read the letters in the diary you left for me last night. I didn't sleep at all. The letters and the diary. I paused. I remembered that on the day I left, I had indeed left a few letters under the pillow and placed an old diary on the dresser. That diary chronicled my life from my son's birth to my husband's death, including the time I sold my gold bracelets when his business failed, and the hardship of taking care of my husband alone when he was sick. You read all of that? I asked softly. I did. From beginning to end, he said, wiping his face. Mom, I had no idea you had sacrificed so much for me. I'm such a jerk. Seeing his anguish, my heart ached. As a mother, I never intended to use those sacrifices to hold him hostage. I just loved him purely and was willing to do anything for him. Son, I did those things because I wanted to. I patted his hand. It's natural for parents to love their children, but it's not something to be taken for granted. He suddenly raised his voice. I took your sacrifices for granted. I even let Megan treat you that way. At the mention of Megan, we both fell silent. Over the past 6 months, although she was no longer verbally abusive, she was still reserved and distant whenever she visited, like a child who had done something wrong. How has Megan been lately? I broke the silence. We've separated, he said in a low voice. What? I looked at him in shock. When? Why? 2 weeks ago, he said, staring into his teacup. She could never truly face her own issues. Every time we talked about the past, she would either avoid it or get angry. I couldn't take it anymore. I then noticed the dark circles under my son's eyes and how thin his face had become. Every time he had visited with Leo, he had acted as if nothing was wrong. I had no idea he was carrying such a burden. Is it because of me? I asked guiltily. No, he looked up sharply. Absolutely not. It's our own problem. Mom, you know, after reading your diary, I started to think about our marriage. Megan's attitude toward her own parents is just like how she was with you, ordering them around. With no respect, he ran his hands through his hair in frustration. I thought it was just her being strong-willed, but now I realize it's the trauma from her family. Her mother treated her grandmother the same way. I silently recalled Megan's tearful apology. She had said she grew up watching her mother mistreat her grandmother and thought it was a normal way for in-laws to interact. I suggested she see a therapist, Ryan continued. She refused. She said I was trying to humiliate her. We had a huge fight, and she moved back to her parents' house. What about Leo? I asked urgently. He's with me, he managed a weak smile. The little guy is so grown up now. He packs his own school bag and even helps me make simple breakfast. He said, Grandma taught me how to beat eggs. My eyes welled up. The little boy who had once mimicked his mother and called me an old thing now remembered the life skills I had taught him. Mom, my son suddenly knelt before me, clutching my hands tightly. Give me a chance to make it up to you. Let me be a good son again. Seeing his tear-streaked face, my heart melted. I helped him up and said softly, You've always been my good son. We just both needed to learn and grow. Then will you move back in? He asked hopefully. It's just me and Leo at home now. The house feels so empty. I shook my head. I'm happy here. But you can visit me anytime, and I can go spend time with Leo on the weekends. His face fell with disappointment, but he quickly composed himself. I understand. You have your career here, your friends. It was selfish of me to ask. It's not selfish, I corrected him with a smile. It's love. I'm happy that you want me to live with you, but we both need our own space, right? He nodded, wiping his tears. Then at least let me do something for you. Do you need funding for your book? I know some people in publishing. Seeing how eager he was to make amends, an idea came to me. Actually, there is something you can help with. What is it? Just say the word. My cookbook is missing a few traditional banquet dishes, I explained. Your grandfather? My father-in-law was a head chef at a state-run restaurant back in the day. He had a few signature dishes I never learned. Your father should remember how to make them. My father, he paused. You want me to ask him? Yes, ask your father, I said calmly. He's living at the Green Mountain nursing home, isn't he? My son's expression was complicated. Before my husband passed away, a misunderstanding had caused a rift between father and son, and they had barely spoken since. Over the years, Ryan rarely visited his father, even on holidays, just making a perfunctory phone call. Mom, He hesitated. No rush, I patted his hand. Think about it. The old man is over 80. You have fewer and fewer chances to see him. He nodded gravely, then changed the subject. Oh, you should try this cake. It's from Megan's favorite bakery. I opened the exquisite cake box. Inside was a beautiful cream cake with happy birthday, Mom written in fruit jam, decorated with 6 small strawberries. But it's not my birthday, I said, confused. It's for last year, he said softly. To make up for that one. I'm sorry. I cut a small piece of cake and took a bite. The cream was rich and smooth, the strawberries fresh and juicy. This birthday cake, a year late, seemed to hold a symbolic meaning. Some regrets could be mended, some mistakes could be corrected, as long as the heart was willing. Is it good? My son asked expectantly. It's delicious, I nodded with a smile. Very sweet. He let out a sigh of relief, and his smile reminded me of him as a little boy, the one who would hug me and say my cooking was the best in the world. Oh, right. He suddenly remembered something and took an envelope from his briefcase. This is for you. What is it? I took the envelope. It was heavy. Rent for the past 5 years, he said seriously. You lived with us, cooked for us, took care of our child, cleaned the house. At market rate, we should at least pay you this much. I opened the envelope. Inside was a thick stack of $100 bills, probably $2,000 or $3,000. I looked at him in shock. This is too much. It's not, he shook his head. A live-in nanny costs at least $5,000 a month. That's $30,000 for 5 years. This is just a down payment. Son, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How can I take money from you? You must, he insisted. This isn't for my mother. This is the service fee for Miss Helen Feng. You taught me that to respect a person, you must first respect their labor and their value. His words stunned me. It was true. For 5 years, I had given my all without compensation, precisely because my labor was not respected and my value was not recognized. Then I'll accept it, I finally nodded. I can use it to publish my cookbook. If it's not enough, just let me know, he said, relieved. He then added, "Oh, and next week is Leo's school's parent-child event. They need a parent to participate. Do you have time?" Of course, my eyes lit up. "What's the event?" "A dumpling-making contest," he said with a smile. "Leo insists on having his grandma there. He says grandma makes the best dumplings. That child—" I shook my head with a smile. My heart filled with sweetness. My son stayed until evening. As he was leaving, he hugged me tightly and whispered in my ear, "Mom, I love you. Really." Those 3 simple words made me cry. How many years had it been since I heard my son express his feelings so directly? After closing the door, I leaned against it, letting the tears flow. Our conversation today had opened a new door in our relationship. From now on, we were not just mother and son by default, but 2 people who truly respected and understood each other. Outside, the sun was setting, and the ginkgo leaves glowed in the fading light. Life at 60, it turned out, could be so brilliant. The Green Mountain Nursing Home was nestled on a small hill in the suburbs, surrounded by lush trees, a tranquil environment. I stood at the main gate, took a deep breath, and adjusted the insulated container in my hand. Inside were freshly made meatballs and braised fish, my late husband's 2 favorite dishes. "Helen, you're here." The young nurse at the front desk greeted me warmly. "Mr. Fung is sunbathing in the garden. I'll take you to him." Following the nurse down the long corridor, my heart beat faster and faster. It had been 5 years. Since my husband, George, moved into the nursing home, we had seen each other only a handful of times. It wasn't that I didn't want to come, but every visit ended in an argument. He would blame me for spoiling our son, and I would resent him for being too strict. After our last fight, he refused to see me, even when he was hospitalized for surgery. In the garden, several seniors were playing chess and chatting. The nurse pointed to a bench in the distance. "The one in the gray sweater, that's Mr. Feng." I looked in the direction she was pointing and almost didn't recognize him. The stooped, white-haired man. Could that really be the tall, strong husband I remembered? "George?" I called out softly, walking up to him. He slowly looked up, a flicker of surprise in his cloudy eyes, which then returned to a calm expression. "What are you doing here?" "I brought you something to eat," I said, holding up the container. "Meatballs and braised fish, your old favorites." He stared at the container for a few seconds, then finally scooted over, making room for me on the bench. I sat down and opened the lid. The aroma immediately filled the air. His nose twitched, and his expression softened slightly. "Have some?" I handed him the chopsticks. He took them, picked up a piece of fish, and slowly chewed. Suddenly, a tear dropped into the container. "It still tastes the same." His voice was hoarse. After 5 years, my eyes welled up too. Yes, 5 years. In these 5 years, he had missed our son's wedding, the birth of our grandson, my 60th birthday, and any chance for us to reconcile. "How have you been?" He broke the silence. "I'm doing well," I said softly. "I moved out. I'm at Willow Creek Senior Living now." I heard. He nodded. "The young nurses here are all talking about some old lady on TV teaching people how to cook. I figured it had to be you." You've been watching TV?" I asked, surprised. He looked a little embarrassed. "I sneak a peek when the aides aren't looking. They say it's bad for my eyes." We shared a smile, and for a moment, it felt like we were young again, sneaking around on our dates. Back then, he was just an apprentice at a state-run restaurant, and I was a worker at the textile mill. Every meeting felt like a secret mission, hiding from his master chef. "George," I gathered my courage. Ryan wants to come see you." His hand paused, and the meatball on his chopsticks fell back into the container. "What does he want?" "He wants to learn how to cook from you," I explained softly. "I'm putting together a family recipe book, but I'm missing some of your signature dishes." "Humph," he scoffed. Now he remembers his old man. Where was he when I was having surgery? Where was he on my 80th birthday? I remained silent. It was true. Our son had been too distant with his father over the years. But who could really say who was right and who was wrong? The father and son were two peas in a pod, stubborn, proud, and terrible at expressing love. "He knows he was wrong," I said softly. "He read my diary and realized you didn't intentionally miss his graduation ceremony." "I was in the hospital with a work injury," George said, agitated. "My leg was broken, in a cast. How was I supposed to go?" And he held a grudge against me for his whole life. He was young then. He didn't understand. I patted his hand. "He understands now. He wants to make it right. George, give our son a chance. He's over 40 now." George was silent for a long time, then finally sighed. "Whatever. If he wants to come, he can come. But I'm not promising I'll teach him." I knew this was the biggest concession he could make. We chatted a little longer, then I got up to leave. As I was walking away, he suddenly called out, "Helen, will you come again?" "Of course," I nodded with a smile. "I'll bring dumplings next week, your favorite chive-filled ones." Leaving the nursing home, the warm sun shone on my face. My phone rang. It was a message from Sarah. "Helen, the publisher is asking for the manuscript. When can you submit the last few recipes?" I replied, "Just a few more days. I've sent my son to consult with his grandfather." Just as I sent the message, another call came in. It was my son, Ryan. "Mom?" His voice was a little nervous. I went to see Dad." "What? Now?" I asked, surprised. "I just left the nursing home." "I know. I saw your car," he said in a low voice. "I waited in the parking lot until you left before going in." That silly boy, so nervous he had to hide from me. "How did it go?" I asked with concern. "Not great," he said with a bitter smile. He yelled at me for half an hour, called me an ungrateful brat. Then he threw a notebook at me, said it contained all his life's work, and told me to figure it out myself. I couldn't help but smile. That sounded just like George. Soft-hearted, but with a sharp tongue. "Is the notebook useful?" "Incredibly useful." My son's voice suddenly became excited. "It's full of treasures. Mom, do you know the secret to a perfect broth?" Dad's notebook explains it all. Listening to him ramble on about cooking techniques, my heart felt warm. That notebook was George's prized possession. He wouldn't even let me touch it back in the day. The fact that he was willing to give it to our son meant that he had mostly forgiven him. "Mom, thank you," my son said seriously. "If it weren't for you, Dad and I might never have reconciled." "There's no overnight feud between a father and son," I said softly. "Oh, and Leo's parent-child event is next Wednesday, right?" "Yes, at 10 o'clock in the morning," he paused. Megan will be there too." Oh, I was a little surprised. "Are you two back together?" "No," his voice dropped. "She's going as a parent representative. We're still separated." I could hear the disappointment in his voice and didn't press further. After hanging up, I decided to go see Megan. No matter what, she was still Leo's mother, and perhaps my daughter-in-law again in the future. Megan was staying at her parents' house. I bought some fruit and stood in front of the familiar villa, ringing the doorbell. Her mother, a well-maintained middle-aged woman, opened the door and was clearly stunned to see me. "Helen?" she stammered. "What are you?" "I came to see Megan," I said calmly. "Is she here?" "She is, but—" She hesitated, then stepped aside. "Please, come in." The house was as immaculate and luxurious as ever, but it felt cold. Megan was sitting on the sofa in the living room. When she saw me, she shot up in surprise. "Helen?" "Megan," I smiled, handing her the fruit. "I heard you're going to Leo's school event. I came to see if I could help." She stood there, fidgeting, her eyes darting away. You don't hate me?" "Hate?" I shook my head. "Why would I hate you?" "Because of what I did to you." Her voice trailed off. "Let the past be the past," I said softly. "What matters is the now and the future. Speaking of which, the event is a dumpling-making contest. Do you need me to teach you a few tricks?" Her mother stood by, utterly bewildered, clearly having no idea what had transpired between us. Megan's eyes turned red, and she nodded slightly. Thank you, Helen. I really don't know how to make dumplings. Then let's start now, I said, rolling up my sleeves. Where's the kitchen? For the next 2 hours, in the luxurious kitchen, I taught Megan the art of making dumplings, the technique for kneading the dough, the secret to a flavorful filling, and various ways to fold them. She was a diligent student, clumsy but sincere. Her mother watched from the side, her expression complex. Helen, Megan suddenly asked. Why? Why are you still willing to teach me? Because you're Leo's mother, I said, demonstrating how to make a pleated dumpling, and I believe that people can change. Just like me. I only started learning to live for myself at 60. Her mother overheard this, gave me a thoughtful look, and quietly left the kitchen. Helen, Megan lowered her voice. I went to see a therapist, like Ryan suggested. Really? I asked, pleasantly surprised. Did it help? She nodded, her eyes shining with tears. The doctor said, my attitude toward you was a form of intergenerational trauma. My mother treated my grandmother the same way. She haltingly recounted her therapy sessions, how she began to recognize her behavioral patterns and confront her family issues. Listening to her, my own eyes grew moist. This daughter-in-law, who I had once despised, was also a wounded child. Helen, I will get better, she said, wiping her tears, her voice firm. For Leo, for Ryan, and for myself. When I was leaving, Megan insisted on walking me to the gate. Her mother suddenly ran out after us and handed me an exquisite gift box. Helen, this is just a small token. I'm so sorry about Megan's behavior. I opened the box. Inside was a beautiful silk scarf. I looked up at her. This usually proud woman had a hint of shame in her eyes. Thank you, but there's no need, I said gently but firmly, handing the box back to her. Megan and I will work things out ourselves. Walking home, I felt lighter than ever. It turned out that forgiving others was also a way of liberating oneself. At this stage of life, past grievances suddenly seemed less important. Back at the community, Ruth pulled me aside conspiratorially. Helen, I have some good news for you. What is it? The city is selecting the most beautiful senior, and our community nominated you, she said excitedly. If you win, you can even go to the state competition. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm this old. What competition am I going to enter? What's wrong with being old? Ruth retorted. You're the representative for seniors in our city now. You're a great cook, you have a great attitude, and you've handled your family situation so well. Handled my family situation well. I shook my head. My family was a mess, separated from my husband for years. My son and daughter-in-law's marriage in crisis. My grandson caught in the middle. But then I thought again. Weren't we all trying to mend, trying to grow? That evening, a text came from my son. Mom, Dad agreed to let me visit him every week. Today, we made braised pork together. He said my cooking technique was pretty good. This was followed by a message from Megan. Helen, I practiced all afternoon and finally made some decent dumplings. Leo said they're better than the school cafeterias. Looking at these two messages, I smiled as I fell asleep. I dreamed of a scene. During the holidays, our whole family was gathered together, making dumplings. George was teaching Ryan how to season the filling. I was teaching Megan how to roll the dough, and Leo was happily playing with a piece of dough on the side. The day of the parent-child event was bright and sunny. I arrived at Leo's school early, carrying a bag of prepared ingredients. The school gate was already crowded with parents and children. From a distance, I saw my son's tall figure, with Megan and Leo standing beside him. Grandma! Leo spotted me and ran into my arms. Sweetie, I kissed his cheek. Are you ready for the competition? I'm ready. He puffed out his chest proudly. Mommy has been practicing a lot. I looked at my son and daughter-in-law as they walked over. Ryan was in a suit, while Megan was in a simple t-shirt and jeans with no makeup. This was a first in my memory. Mom, my son smiled, taking the bag from me. Helen? Megan greeted me softly, her gaze steady. Everyone's here, let's go in, I said, taking Leo's hand and leading the way. The activity room was set up with a dozen tables, each with dough and filling. Families found their spots, eagerly waiting for the competition to begin. Parents and students, the principal announced over a microphone. The family dumpling making competition will now begin. You have 30 minutes. Both quantity and quality will be judged. Begin. At the signal, everyone got busy. Our team had a clear division of labor. I rolled the wrappers, my son seasoned the filling, and Megan and Leo folded the dumplings. Watching my daughter-in-law's clumsy but earnest movements, I couldn't help but guide her. Like this, use a little more force when you pinch it. Yes, just like that. Grandma, look at mine. Leo held up a lopsided dumpling, his face beaming with pride. That's wonderful. I praised him sincerely, much better than the first one I ever made. Megan's dumplings gradually started to look better. Though not as neat as mine, at least they didn't fall apart. The aroma from my son's filling drew envious glances from the other parents. "Mr. Fong," one parent said in surprise, looking at Ryan's skillful movements. "I didn't know you had this talent." "It runs in the family," my son replied with a smile. "My dad was a chef, and my mom is even better. She's about to publish a cookbook." Hearing the pride in his voice warmed my heart. For so many years, my son was finally proud of me, instead of seeing me as an uneducated old woman. After the competition, the judges tasted the dumplings from each group. When they got to ours, the teachers all praised them. Thin wrappers, generous filling, perfectly seasoned. The first prize is well deserved. We won. Leo jumped up and down. Grandma is the best. When we went up to receive the award, the principal specifically asked me to represent the family. Holding the small trophy, looking at the happy smiles of my son's family below the stage, I suddenly felt that this was happiness simple, ordinary, yet real. After the event, we left with our prize, a set of children's cooking utensils. At the school gate, Megan suddenly took my hand. "Helen, thank you. We couldn't have won without you." "It was a team effort." I patted her hand. "You've improved a lot." She hesitated, then said softly, "Ryan and we're thinking about getting back together." I looked at my son. He nodded, his eyes filled with hope and trepidation. "That's your decision to make," I said gently. "But no matter what, Leo needs a complete family." "Helen," Megan's eyes turned red. Will you move back in with us?" "I promise." "Megan," I interrupted her softly. "I'm happy at the community, but we can visit each other often, okay?" She looked a little disappointed but nodded. My son came over and put his arm around her shoulder, comforting her silently. Watching them, I knew this young couple was finally learning to understand and support each other. That weekend, I took dumplings to see George as promised. When I pushed open the door to the activity room at the nursing home, I was surprised to find my son there too. He and George were huddled over the notebook, with various ingredients spread out on the table. "Mom," my son saw me and waved excitedly. "Dad is teaching me the secret to making 3 non-stick pudding." "Helen, you're here?" George looked up, a rare smile on his face. "Just in time. Try your son's pudding. It's almost as good as mine was back in the day." I tasted the dessert my son made. It was indeed sweet and soft, not sticking to the plate, the chopsticks, or the teeth. Delicious. I praised him sincerely. "Much better than your dad's first attempt. He nearly burned down the kitchen back then." "Nonsense." George's old face flushed, and my son laughed heartily. Seeing the father and son getting along so well, my eyes grew moist. Years of estrangement had finally melted away. George even agreed to come to my son's house for the holidays, a first in 10 years. On the way home, my son insisted on driving me. In the car, he excitedly talked about the cooking techniques he was learning from his father and how he planned to incorporate these traditional skills into a modern restaurant. "Mom," he said suddenly, "Megan and I have talked it over. After we get back together, we want to open a small restaurant specializing in traditional family banquet dishes. What do you think?" "That's a wonderful idea," I said, delighted. "Do you need an investor?" "No," he shook his head with a smile. "We just need your expertise. You can be our chief consultant." "Chief consultant?" I chuckled. A 60-year-old housewife becoming a restaurant consultant. Life was full of surprises. As the winter solstice arrived, according to northern tradition, it was a day for eating dumplings. My son's family invited me over, and George also came from the nursing home. The house was full of life and laughter as we all worked together kneading dough, mixing filling, rolling wrappers, and folding dumplings. Megan's dumpling-making skills had improved significantly, and Leo could now fold simple ones on his own. George and my son were in charge of the filling, while I was the quality control expert, tasting for seasoning. "Grandma," Leo suddenly asked, "when are you moving back? I want to eat your dumplings every day." The room fell silent, and everyone looked at me expectantly. I knelt down to Leo's level. "Sweetie, Grandma has her own little house now, and her own job, but I promise to visit you every week, okay?" "Okay," he pouted, reluctantly agreeing. "Mom," my son said softly, "we respect your choice, but you will always have a room in our home. You're welcome back anytime." "Thank you," I nodded with a smile. "Come on, let's cook the dumplings." Steaming hot dumplings were served, and we all gathered around the table, like countless ordinary families, enjoying this simple and precious moment of reunion. George even had a small glass of wine, his face flushed, looking years younger. After dinner, my son suddenly brought out a beautifully wrapped box. "Mom, this is for you." I opened it. Inside was a brand new smartphone. This is too expensive," I said in surprise. "Not at all," my son said, helping me set it up. "You're a celebrity now. You need the right equipment. See, I've already downloaded all the apps for you. You can upload your cooking videos directly." "I don't know how to make videos," I said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "I'll teach you," Leo volunteered. "We have a computer class at school." Seeing my family's enthusiasm, I had to accept this sweet burden. Megan even helped me register a video account called Grandma Helen's Kitchen. "What should we film for the first video?" my son asked eagerly. "Let's just film us making dumplings," I said, looking at the leftover ingredients. The whole family together. And so, on that ordinary winter solstice evening, we recorded our first family video. George explained the secret to the filling, my son demonstrated how to knead the dough, and I taught Megan and Leo how to pleat the edges. The room was filled with laughter. "Perfect," my son said, reviewing the footage. "Mom, you're going to be a social media star." "What star?" I shook my head with a smile. "It's just for a keepsake." Late at night, it was time for George to go back to the nursing home. My son drove him. Before leaving, my husband suddenly took my hand. "Helen, have you considered moving into the nursing home with me? They have rooms for couples." I looked at him in surprise, never expecting to hear such a proposal at this time, in this place. "I'll think about it," was all I could say. After they left, Megan stayed behind to help me clean the kitchen. We stood side by side at the sink, working in perfect harmony, like a real mother and daughter. "Helen," she said suddenly, "thank you for giving all of us a second chance." I didn't say anything, just gently squeezed her sudsy hand. Some gratitude needs no words. On the eve of the new year, Grandma Helen's Kitchen had already released over 20 videos, and the number of followers had surpassed 100,000. From simple dumplings to complex banquet dishes, my son, daughter-in-law, grandson, and I filmed the process of making home-style food, complete with detailed instructions. I never expected such a positive response. The comment section was filled with messages like, "This reminds me of home," and "This tastes like my grandma's cooking." "Mom, look at this one," my son pointed to a comment excitedly. "It's a producer from the provincial TV station. They want to invite you to be on their New Year's special." No. I waved my hands. "It's the holidays. It's better to be at home." "Please, Grandma?" Leo begged, hugging my arm. "I want to be on TV too." Helen. Megan also chimed in. "This is a great opportunity to let more people know about our traditional food culture." Under their persistent persuasion, I finally agreed. The recording went smoothly. I, along with several other seniors, demonstrated how to make traditional New Year's dishes from different regions and shared our holiday memories. The host specifically introduced my story, how I went from a mistreated mother-in-law to a culinary expert, and how I repaired my family relationships. After the show aired, the followers of Grandma Helen's Kitchen skyrocketed, and the pre-orders for my cookbook doubled. The publisher had to do an emergency reprint and even arranged a national book signing tour. Of course, I declined most of it, only agreeing to attend a few local events. On New Year's Eve, the whole family gathered at my son's house for dinner. Unlike the nightmarish birthday a year ago, today's dinner table was filled with laughter. George had come from the nursing home, looking vibrant. My son and daughter-in-law worked together seamlessly, one cooking, the other assisting. Leo acted like a little adult, setting the table. "Dinner's ready," my son announced, bringing out the last dish, a fortune chicken made according to George's secret recipe. We all sat together and raised our glasses. The New Year's gala was playing on TV, and fireworks occasionally exploded outside, while the house was filled with warmth. "Mom," my son suddenly stood up, holding his glass. "I'd like to propose a toast to you. Thank you for teaching me so much this year. I've learned how to be a son, how to be a father, and how to be a better person." "It's the holidays. Why are you saying all this?" I said, embarrassed, but couldn't stop my eyes from tearing up. "I want to toast Grandma too." Leo mimicked him, raising his glass of juice. "Grandma is the best." "Helen." George also stood up, his voice a little choked up. "I'm sorry for all the years of hardship. Looking at all the people I loved in this room, my tears finally broke free. The past year flashed before my eyes like a movie. The humiliation of my 60th birthday, the determination to leave home, the new life at the senior community, the chaos of media attention, and the emotional reconciliation with my family. All right, it's the holidays. Let's not talk about sad things," I said, wiping my tears and raising my glass. "Here's to our family. Cheers." "Happy New Year, Happy New Year," everyone chimed in, their glasses clinking together. After dinner, we all made dumplings for good luck. George and my son discussed the renovation plans for their restaurant. Megan and Leo carefully folded dumplings, and I supervised. The TV host began the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year. Outside, fireworks lit up the night sky. My son suddenly brought out an exquisite gift box. "Mom, your New Year's gift." I opened it. Inside was a shiny golden key. "It's the key to the restaurant," my son said with a smile. "You will always be our chief consultant. Welcome to supervise us anytime." And this, Leo also handed me a handmade card. With Grandma, "I love you" written in crooked letters. "Helen," George said mysteriously, "I have a gift for you too. I've applied for a couple's room at the nursing home. It'll be ready in the spring." I looked at him in surprise, then at my son's family. They were all smiling at me, their eyes full of anticipation. "Are you all plotting against me?" I pretended to be angry but couldn't help but smile. "Mom, please consider it," my son said softly. "Dad is getting older and needs someone to take care of him. Besides, you can teach classes and film videos from anywhere." I looked at George's hopeful eyes and remembered our promise when we were young to grow old together, sunbathing and reminiscing. A promise that had been delayed, but not forgotten. "I'll think about it," was all I could say, but in my heart, I already had the answer. On the first morning of the new year, I woke up early and prepared a lavish breakfast. Watching my sleepy-eyed family come downstairs one by one, their faces lighting up at the smell of food, I suddenly understood something. Love is not about sacrifice or tolerance. It's about mutual respect and mutual fulfillment. Only by first finding one's own value can one truly love and be loved. My phone chimed with a new notification. It was a new comment on Grandma Helen's kitchen. "Your story moved me so much. I've decided to go home and see my parents for the holidays." I smiled and replied, "It's good to be home. Happy New Year." Outside, the New Year's sun bathed the earth in light. Life at 60, it turned out, could be so wonderful. A broken family, it turned out, could be rebuilt even stronger. In the days to come, I would still be Helen Fung, not just someone's wife, someone's mother, or someone's grandmother, but myself, a person with dignity and value.